You are trapped in a cycle you can't see. It feeds on your energy, your plans, your vitality. It keeps moving even when you swear you're in control. You wake up with a clean intention. You tell yourself, today will be different. You will not sabotage yourself. You will take the reins. And then it happens again. The same behavior you promised to abandon. The same distraction. The same small escape that steals the whole day. This is not a question of intelligence. It is not a lack of discipline. It is not motivation. Something deeper is running. Something that does not ask for your permission. It does not follow your logic. It does not respect your plans. Freud saw this with a brutal kind of calm. He did not treat the mind as a single, rational commander. He treated it as a field of forces. A silent war. Part of you moves toward life, toward creation, toward building, and part of you moves toward the opposite, toward dissolution, toward numbness, toward the end of effort. That second force does not announce itself as death. It hides behind relief, behind pleasure, behind just one more. You repeat a destructive pattern. You feel a small release. Your brain rewards the loop. So the loop returns, not because you are weak, because the system is reinforced. If you've felt that resistance when you try to change, that invisible pull back to the same point, you already know what I'm describing. In a moment, I'll name the forces clearly, and I'll show you how they wear masks in your daily life. But I want you to hold one detail for later, because this is where people fail. When the urge arrives, they fight the 10th step. They argue with themselves after the day is already gone. Later, I'll show you a simpler move. You catch the first cue, not the relapse. And you build friction there, right at the beginning. For now, stay close, because once you can see the forces, you stop calling the loop you, and you start treating it like what it is. The mind is not one thing. It is not a single voice. It is pressure from different directions. Freud treated it like a field of forces, not poetry. Mechanism. Something in you pushes toward building, and something in you pushes toward collapse. Eros is the drive that binds. It preserves. It connects. It makes you choose effort over drift. It shows up when you learn, when you train, when you keep a promise, when you build a relationship that makes you stronger, when you make something that did not exist yesterday. Thanatos moves the other way. It is not a dramatic wish to die. It is quieter than that. It is a pull toward zero, toward less tension, less demand, less friction, a return to numbness. That is why it hides so well, because it can wear the mask of relief. You don't say, I want to destroy myself. You say, just 5 minutes. You say, I'm tired. You say, I deserve it. You say, tomorrow. And you repeat the same behavior, not because you forgot the consequences, because a part of you prefers the short relief, even if it costs you later. Freud said the ego is not master in its own house. You feel that when you decide to change, and your hands still reach for the old habit. Eros and Thanatos do not take turns. They overlap, they mix, they speak through the same mouth. What you call pleasure can be a form of collapse, not the pleasure of growth, the pleasure of shutting down. And what you call resistance can be life. The part of you that wants to build, that wants to tolerate tension, that wants to stay awake. This conflict is not abstract. It is in small choices. The choice to keep working or to disappear. The choice to speak honestly or to avoid. The choice to face discomfort or to anesthetize it. If you do not name the forces, you confuse them. You call collapse rest. You call avoidance self-care. You call drift freedom. Eros asks for time. Thanatos asks for now. Eros builds slowly. Thanatos dissolves quickly. And the modern loop is simple. Thanatos takes the wheel. Eros becomes a voice in the background, a weak protest, then silence. So start here, not with discipline, with recognition. When you reach for the relief, notice which direction you're moving. Toward building or toward zero. That is the whole map. 2 impulses, 1 life. and you standing in the middle, pretending there is only one voice. You don't feel the death drive as death. You feel it as permission, a soft signal that says, "Not now." It rarely comes with fear. It comes with comfort, with the promise of a small release. You call it rest, you call it a break, you call it just this once. And then it happens. You wake up with plans, simple plans. Do the thing you said you would do, avoid the thing you swore you would stop. But the day moves. A little friction appears, a little tension, a little uncertainty, and something in you reaches for an exit. Not a dramatic exit, a private one, a quiet door. You scroll, you watch, you snack, you click, you drift. You don't decide to lose an hour, you just stop feeling the hour. That's how it hides, not as destruction, as anesthesia. The masks are familiar. A screen, a feed, a clip, a tab you shouldn't open, a drink that softens the edge. Food that makes you heavy, a game that keeps you busy, a relationship that keeps you weak, work that keeps you numb. None of it needs to be extreme. It only needs to repeat. The pattern has a signature. Relief first, decay later. You feel the relief, a small drop in pressure. A moment where you don't have to hold yourself up. Then comes the rest, the drained body, the thin mind, the guilt that wakes up after the pleasure. And you mistake the guilt for proof that you care. So you punish yourself, you tighten your rules, you promise harder, and the pressure returns, so you reach for relief again. The same door, the same mask. You tell yourself you're choosing it, but it happens too fast. It happens before you finish the sentence. That's why it doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like gravity. You also hide it in delay. Not just distraction, delay. You postpone the one task that would change your life. You keep it in the future. You keep it clean, untouched. You tidy your room. You plan. You research. You sharpen the knife. But you never cut. You don't call that self-destruction. You call it preparation, but it has the same function. It keeps you from exposure. It keeps you from effort. It keeps you from risk. It keeps you exactly where you are. This is the modern disguise. Not a wish to die, a wish to stop feeling, a wish to return to zero. No tension, no demand, no edge. And if you watch yourself closely, you can see the moment it arrives. A small discomfort, a small resistance. Then the hand reaches, not because you are stupid, not because you are lazy, because a part of you wants the pressure off, even if the price is your future. So you repeat, and the mask becomes your face. In the next part, you'll see how the reward system helps this repetition, how the brain learns relief as a rule, and how the loop becomes automatic. You need to understand what dopamine is doing to you, not in theory, in practice. Dopamine is not a simple pleasure chemical. It is the system that marks a behavior as worth repeating. It pushes you toward the thing. It does not ask whether the thing is good for you. A cue appears, your body leans forward, you reach, you open, you consume. Then comes a small relief, a soft drop in tension. And your brain writes it down. Repeat this. That is the trap. The brain can reward what weakens you, because it rewards relief, not truth, not consequence. So the cycle becomes simple. You feel pressure. You reach for an anesthetic. You get a quick quietness, and the pathway strengthens. Next time, the pull is stronger. Not because you are stupid, because the circuit has been trained. This is why the modern masks work. They are fast, they are frictionless. They give you the illusion of rest, but they do not restore you, they drain you, and there is a second war inside you. Not only chemistry, not only habit, a division in the will. Scripture names this division without romance. A man wants one thing, he does another. He sees the pattern, he still repeats it. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep on doing. That line is not poetry. It is a description, a confession of the split. So when you say, "I will change," you are not speaking to a unified self. You are speaking into a crowded room. One part of you wants the good. Another part wants the relief. And dopamine votes for the relief, because relief feels urgent. That is how the loop holds. Not with chains you can see, with rewards you can feel, and a will that is divided. If you want to understand the cycle, start here. Watch what you do when tension rises. Watch the first reach, not the 10th. That first movement tells you what you serve: life or collapse. You keep thinking the problem is willpower, that you just need more discipline, that you should try harder. But inside you, it isn't one voice trying to change. It is three forces pulling at the same rope, and they do not want the same thing. One part of you is the ID. It is simple. It wants relief. Now. It does not negotiate with tomorrow. It does not care about consequences. It only cares about reducing tension in the fastest way. Another part is the superego. It watches, it judges, it punishes, it uses guilt, it uses shame, it speaks in rules, it speaks in should, and it can be cruel. Between them is the ego, not a king, a mediator. It tries to keep you functional. It tries to keep you realistic. It tries to balance desire and demand. And it gets crushed when both sides get loud. So when you try to change a self-destructive behavior, this is what happens. The ID pulls you toward the old relief. The superego pushes back with condemnation, and the ego tries to hold the line for a while. Then the loop begins. The impulse arrives. It pulls. You give in, not because you decided to ruin yourself, because the ID got what it wanted: relief. Then the superego speaks. It punishes you for it. It makes you pay with guilt, with shame, with self-contempt. And now the ego is trapped. It is carrying two weights: the urge that came before and the punishment that comes after. So it looks for relief again, not only from the impulse, from the punishment. And the quickest relief is the same old behavior, the same distraction, the same indulgence. So you return, and the cycle closes. Sometimes it gets darker. Sometimes the system is not even chasing pleasure. Sometimes it is chasing punishment, as if guilt needs a payment, as if suffering is the fee for existing. So failure becomes familiar, and suffering becomes a strange kind of order. That is why you can understand the trap and still repeat it, because the conflict is structural. Not a simple choice, not a single decision. So don't treat it like a pep talk. Don't treat it like a moral test. See the forces, see how they move. Then you can deal with them strategically, not by shouting louder inside your head, but by changing what the system rewards and what it punishes. One move at a time. You don't break this cycle by arguing with yourself. You don't break it by promising harder. You break it by seeing the pattern early. It starts before the fall, not at the 10th scroll, at the first cue, the first itch. The moment your hand moves without a decision, that is the doorway. That is where you still have leverage. Name the pattern, not with poetry, with precision. What pulls you in, what time it happens, what feeling comes first. Boredom, pressure, loneliness. The urge is never random. It is a response. Then you build friction. You make the destructive path slower, less convenient, less automatic. You remove the easy access. You change the route. You change the room. You don't trust later. You design the moment. And you lower the entry to the life path. Not grand plans, small starts, the first minute, the first page, the first set, the first message. The point is not intensity. It is initiation, a clean beginning that your mind cannot negotiate with. You also replace relief, because the loop is powered by relief, not by joy, not by meaning. Relief. So you don't just stop a behavior. You give the brain another exit, a cleaner one, something that reduces tension without poisoning you after, and you face what you keep avoiding. Because the compulsion is not only a habit, It is a guard. It stands in front of something, a feeling, a memory, a fear. You may not name it yet, but you already know when it comes. It comes right before the urge. That is why resistance appears. You are not only leaving a vice, you are leaving an anesthesia. Part of you wants the numbness, because numbness is rest. Rest without responsibility, rest without exposure. So you do not wage war on yourself. A civil war only feeds the judge inside you. Shame makes the cycle stronger. Punishment makes it familiar. Integration is different. You recognize what the impulse is trying to do. Reduce tension, escape pressure, end effort. You don't worship it. You don't obey it. You translate it. Then you choose a better outlet. This is how the chain loosens, not with speeches, with structure, with friction, with small beginnings, with clean relief, with the courage to stay present when you want to disappear. That is the work. Quiet, repeated, and real. Subscribe now, not because it helps me, because it helps you stay close to this work. If you leave and come back weeks later, the mind resets the trap. It forgets what it just saw. You now know what you're dealing with, not a bad habit, not laziness, not weak discipline, a conflict. Eros pulling you toward building, Thanatos pulling you toward collapse, a reward system that can be trained against you. Dopamine doesn't ask if the thing is good, it only marks what you repeat, and it makes you want it again. And beneath that, the unconscious, old patterns, old permissions, old punishments. The ego negotiating under pressure, the superego judging with a hard voice, the ID pushing for relief. So here's the choice. Not a dramatic one, a simple one. You can close this and return to your usual loop. You can tell yourself you understood it and then do nothing with it, or you can start to act differently. Slowly, on purpose, do one thing. Watch yourself today, not the big failures. The first small turn, the moment you reach for anesthesia, the moment you begin to postpone, the moment you try to buy relief. Ask one question. Does this move serve Eros or Thanatos? Does it build me or dissolve me? Don't answer with words. Answer with what you do next. If you slip, don't turn it into a story. Don't feed the judge. Notice the cue. Notice the justification. Notice the relief. Then step back. Create distance. A few seconds is enough. That's where the chain breaks. And write it down. One line. What triggered it? What you did? What you felt after? You are mapping the pattern. Leave a comment, not a confession, a clear observation, where the loop takes you, what mask it wears for you. Stay close, subscribe, and keep watching, because this work only matters when it changes your next move. I'll see you in the next video.